Welcome to the Square Circle Pugilist with Vinny Paz.
Thank you for joining the Squared Circle Pugilist. This is Don Presnell, your host. This is a short clip about the movie Bleed for This and Vinny Paz. Thank you guys for joining me. This is Don Presnell with Square Circle Pugilist. I'm coming to you. I know that you've seen a clip prior to this video starting. It was really chronicling a movie that just started to show on Netflix. It's an old movie that didn't play out well in the movie theaters, but it's showing on Netflix. And I thought it would be appropriate to even talk about the pugilist that's featured in that movie, which is Vinny Paz. Vinny Paz had a movie that called Bleed for This. It chronicled his life and some of the challenges that he faced as far as boxing is concerned. And there were several. So, you know, I want to use that as a platform to springboard off of to hopefully, you know, get to a point where we can talk about some of the other fighters, some within that era, you know, that also need an autobiography made from them because they had very interesting stories too. You know, looking at that movie, it didn't do well in the movies, but I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was, it made a very compelling story for a pugilist. And Vinny had a number of challenges. You know, some of them was self-induced. His lifestyle basically you know, took away from some of his accomplishments, his ability to achieve in certain areas as in boxing is concerned, because I don't think early on he didn't take it seriously enough. You know, he partied a lot. You know, weight issues was the main thing for him. You know, but it'd be different if you're talking about somebody who didn't have talent. Now, if I talk about Vinny Paz and try to give you a useful analogy, I would still do a little bit of disservice. It's almost like that Rudy story with in football at Notre Dame, but Rudy had great heart, but he didn't have the talent like Pazienza had. Even though Pazienza had talent, if you look at the talent juxtaposed to the competition he had in his era, in his weight divisions, he was outclassed in a sense, you know. But he really allowed himself to be outclassed because Vinny had speed and he had power. Vinny could have done a whole lot more in boxing. I like Vinny Paz as a boxer. I grew up watching Vinny. Vinny was, like I said, he had ring generalship and he had power, and he had, you know, he was sort of like a crafty fighter, but he just had he was a character, and you really liked that character. He really showed out on the fight, you know, and it was rare that, you know, he was really beaten, you know, knocked out or so. He was beaten bad in a couple of fights. That's because he wasn't prepared. You know, this story, Bleed for This, is really about, you know, the main focus of that is the challenges he had, but the main challenge he had, other than his lifestyle choices, was the accident he had following winning the championship. He broke his neck. I mean, you would think that his career was ended, but that heart, that intestinal fortitude brought this dude back from the depths of despair. I don't think that hardly anybody can come back from. And you know, if you think about this accident, prior to that, Vinny had lost a tough fight at 140 against Roger Mayweather, the uncle of, you know, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and he lost pretty bad because he stayed up a little bit. He was partying a little bit too much, dehydrated, trying to lose weight and things of that sort. But following that fight, his trainers was telling him that maybe he should hang it up. I think it was Lou Duva. And the fighting promoters was like, look, man, you need to hang it up because you're not taking it seriously. We don't think you're going to be competitive. And they were trying to get him a fight. And he begged them to basically get him another fight. He was going to prove some things. He actually won that fight. I don't know if he was deserving of that chance of a championship fight, but he won it. And then following that, he ended up, breaking his neck in an auto accident. And they thought, they had to, fuse his spine, all this kind of stuff, medical stuff that went on, and and it was a tough situation for him. But just seeing how this guy got himself back together and overcame all these obstacles, and became a champion again. And I don't think that most people realize that he actually beat Duran twice. Hands of Stone. Hold on for me 1 second. The Hands of Stone. He beat him twice. Even though he was past his prime, he still beat the Hands of Stone twice. He had some notable opponents in the ring. A lot of folks just don't realize that Vinny had some notable opponents. Vinny's record, he had 60 fights, 50 wins, 10 losses. A lot of them came later on in his career. He had a few in his, pretty much in his prime. We lost 2, 3, 4 fights or so, but it wasn't something that was uncommon, but because they were fighting more frequently then, and they were fighting. Vinny wasn't scared. Vinny would fight just about anybody. Guy grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. He's a Italian bred fighter. He was there, and when he took his beating, he took his beating. There was no quitting, He was not Vinny was not a quitter. If anything you know about this story that chronicles Vinny, if you hadn't had a chance to see his fights, he would bleed. He would bleed in that ring, He didn't care. Cut. Fight doctor in there trying to stop it. He'd go out there and try to fight a little bit harder. But, it really is a true testament to the guy's will. But looking at some of his opponents, some of those guys need, like Roger Mayweather, he needs to have a movie that chronicled him. I would love to see a movie about Hagler as well. Hearns, I would love to see those movies. I think we've already seen movies about Duran. We've seen of course, we've seen a lot of the Ali's and stuff like that. But I would like to see some of the other fighters that wasn't a part of that. The other guys. Championships, their life stories, because you've seen the mixture, the overlap between, and these guys were tied to the hip, the Duran and versus the Sugar Rays and things of that sort. And we've seen Sugar Ray stories and stuff, and I think they need to do a redo on some of those guys, especially Sugar Ray and Hagler, I think they need to do something with, with a couple of those guys, some of the Foremans and I think we had Holmes and stuff like that. There's a lot of great guys out there that we haven't seen that, their life stories, because all these guys, you look at it, was a lot of challenges that brought these guys to the boxing, to the sport of boxing, and that these guys had to overcome to be champions. So with that said, I wish that you guys, because there's not a lot of hope. There's not a lot of boxing matches that are going on right now. So the best thing for us to do is to look at what they have available on Netflix. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It's playing right now. Thank you for tuning in. Square Circle Pugilist with Don Presnell. Signing off. You guys be safe out there.